In mind, let us bring in our next guest here to provide insight on flight training, our friend Amber Barno, spokesperson for Concerned Veterans for America and a former Army helicopter pilot in her own right. Amber, we thank you for joining us live this morning from Washington, D.C.
It's great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Amber, if these reports are true, does this rank as a game changer?
Absolutely not. It does not. ISIS has proven to be very effective on the ground, but when you sort of switch it to an air dynamic, there's no comparison to what ISIS is attempting to do with training just a handful of possible pilots to whatever happen if CENTCOM does confirm that these events are actually taking place and their pilots are being trained. It's very amateur what they're doing right now, and I mean, never underestimate your enemy, but I don't see it as a significant threat at all at this time.
Well, not a significant threat, but in terms of long-term strategy, when an enemy is able to add some sort of air dimension, that has to be a worry.
It is, and it shows a shift in ISIS strategy. They're attempting to basically broaden their military strength instead of just a ground army, as we've seen since they started in Iraq and Syria. They basically now are trying to sort of transfer some of their strength into air power. But what we're seeing with the flights, the unconfirmed video of the MiG aircraft taking off and basically staying within the close proximity to the airfield and doing these very short flights, very low altitude flights, it shows that they are in the very early stages of pilot training, and this can sometimes take years when you compare to any sort of Western Air Force or U.S. Air Force. They're in the very early stages of this.
And Amber, you just pointed out, short flights, it looks like they're just practicing. So in your opinion, what does it take to really become a pro, if you will, to becoming a pilot? And how long does it take to master flying?
Well, in terms of basic piloting skills, basically just flying on the controls, that part isn't necessarily the most difficult part of flying an aircraft. It still takes a considerable amount of time. Most U.S. pilots that are military pilots, whether it be helicopter or fighter jets, it can sometimes take years. So you start in very basic, standard, almost simple aircraft flying, and then you go into more advanced systems, and that goes into navigation, communication, weapons systems, and the technology that goes along with it. So there's a lot of memorization, a lot of repetitive training that goes into becoming actually efficient at it, instead of just being able to wiggle the sticks and fly the aircraft. So it takes a considerable amount of time, and we're not going to see any sort of air power out of ISIS if they even make it that far for a considerable amount of time, and I personally don't think it's ever going to come to that.
So you're not concerned that what we're seeing here is the start of a type of ISIS Air Force?
It might be their goal. I think they would love to, especially for their propaganda techniques that they've used and been very effective at to this point. I think that's probably what they're hoping for the majority of this. But what it comes down to is the U.S. military is not going to allow ISIS to establish any form of Air Force. Not to mention, this is late 1950s and 1970s technology that they're flying right now. They're going to be going up against U.S. F-18 Super Hornets and F-22s, and it's comparing apples and oranges. It's very amateur what they're dealing with there, and they are trying. They would like to sort of, for propaganda techniques, say, hey, look, we seized these aircraft and now we're able to fly them as well. But in terms of being effective at using those aircraft, outside of maybe some sort of suicide mission, there's no comparison when it comes to sort of going up against any sort of Western force or air coalition.
And let's talk about some of the reports here that ISIS may be using MiG-21 or MiG-23 jet fighter planes. Can you tell us a little bit more about these planes and how equipped they are?
Yeah, they're Soviet-style aircraft. The MiG-21 is from technology from the late 1950s. The MiG-23 is the 1970s. And So they're basically very old aircraft, and with old aircraft comes significant maintenance problems. With brand new aircraft, you have a significant maintenance platform that you have to maintain these aircraft, from everything from their weapons systems to fuel and parts. And that's why they're probably not going to be able to get more than 3, is because they aren't going to have the people, not necessarily just qualified to fly them, but you also have the people. You also have to have the people who know how to work on them and maintain them so they are flyable. That's definitely going to be something that they're going to have to struggle with moving forward. And then you also have to have some of the weapons systems, which are considerably outdated as well. And we all know ISIS supply chains have been significantly reduced since the U.S. air campaign began in Syria and Iraq. So it's definitely going to be an uphill battle with this older aircraft that they're flying.
So Amber, in light of this, and we have the video apparently out of Aleppo and vicinity, does this suddenly go to the top of the list in terms of places to bomb? You eliminate the 3 Syrian warplanes and the support crew and the trainers, and this so-called ISIS Air Force is gone, is it not?
I agree. CENTCOM has continued to say that they haven't confirmed that these ISIS fighters are being trained as pilots, or that they've even seized the aircraft. So that's interesting as well. We have the best intelligence in the world. As soon as it becomes, I guess they can confirm it, and as soon as it's sort of actionable intelligence, I think that they will eliminate the threat immediately, and there won't be those three Soviet fighter jets anymore with ISIS working with them.
All right, Amber Barno, we thank you for your time. Obviously, your background in Army aviation serves you well. We look forward to talking with you again. Coming up right now,
Thanks for having me.
a Newsmax Now update as America's Forum will continue.